Okay, so in this tutorial, we are going to learn how we can create a function with three parameters, a function that is expecting to receive uh, three bits of data essentially passed in as arguments. Okay, so we should be able to do this now because we've seen various functions over the last few tutorials. So what you do is you use the function keyword, then we have our function name, whatever you want to call the function. We're just going to call it add numbers. We're going to create a function that takes in three numbers as arguments. So we have to define our parameters and then just add them together. So I can say function add numbers. So it's going to expect number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay, so these are just parameters or placeholders. And then what we can do is just log out the result of the operation. So we can say the numbers added together equal. I could have used a template literal here as well, but this is fine the way I'm doing it. So now we just want to get the result of the operation, i.e. add number 1 plus number 2 plus number 3. Okay, so all we've done is we have defined or created a function called add numbers. It is expecting to receive in 1, 2, 3 arguments. So 3 arguments are going to be passed in, and then inside of the function, inside of the curly braces or the code block, we just log out of the console, the numbers added together equal, and then all we're doing is just getting a reference to the parameters. So number 1 is that number 1 there, the first number passed in, number 2 is a reference to that parameter, and number 3 here is a reference to whatever data is passed in as an argument, where we're going to then refer to it as number 3. So what we can do then is just pass in 3 numbers. So let's say add numbers, and whatever numbers come to mind, I'll say 15, 100, and 1000. Okay, so here, to call or invoke this function, what you do is you just type out the name of the function, add numbers, and then pass in the 3 different numbers you want to pass in as arguments. So 15 has been passed in as an argument here, 100 has been passed in as an argument, been passed into there, and 1000, because it's in position 3, is being passed in as an argument to here. So really what we're saying then is the numbers added together equal, and we're getting 15 plus 100 plus 1000 and add them together. So I think we should get 1115, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, I should probably have more coffee. Let's save and refresh, and we get the numbers added together equal 1115. And remember, the order in which you pass in arguments to a function with parameters matters. So suppose what I could do is I could just comment that out, and let's create another function with 3 parameters. We'll do it of type string. So we'll say function tell story. So we're going to have a character's name, a city, and the food they ate, right? So now what we're going to do is we're just going to create a little story here. So console.log, because I want to have 3 different pieces of text, let's do a template literal, just the easiest way to embed. Okay, so we'll say, so the first variable is the name, name of the person. So name, went to city, and ate some food. So $. Remember, when you want to embed variables into a string, what you can do is you can use a template literal. So these are not actually single quotes, they are backticks, which you can find by pressing the number to the left of the number 1 on your keyboard. Okay, right, now the reason I've created this function with 3 different parameters is I just want to emphasize how the order in which we pass in arguments to the function matters. So if I say tell story, right, if I want to say Jessica went to city Paris and ate some, I don't want to say pizza because that would kind of make more sense if that was Italy. So now we're telling a story. We're passing in Jessica as name. So if we log this out to the console, it's going to be Jessica went to Paris and ate some snails. So if I save and refresh, we should get Jessica went to Paris and ate some snails. Okay, awesome. We could do one with Batman. So to call or invoke a function, remember, just type out the name of the function, and this function is expecting to receive 3 arguments passed into it, and it's going to receive them, okay, as arguments, and we've defined our parameters here. So we'll say Batman went to Rome and ate some pizza. I don't know why I always feel the need to make a reference to the DC universe in these tutorials. Oh well. So Batman went to Rome and ate some pizza. Now, what you'll notice is the order in which you pass in the data matters, right? So if I was to say, Paris, and then do pizza, and then do Superman, I mean, that just makes absolutely no sense, right? Because what's going to happen now is we're going to log out to the console. Paris went to pizza and ate some Superman. Oh my god, that's not good. Well, that's just gibberish, right? So Paris went to pizza and ate some Superman. So the key point I'm trying to emphasize here is when you call or invoke a function, that is expecting to receive some arguments passed into it, the order in which you pass in the data as arguments matters, okay? So the first time we called or invoked the function, it made sense. Jessica was passed in as name, Paris is the city, snails is food, so it read, Jessica went to Paris and ate some snails. But when we did it here, we didn't pass in the data in an appropriate manner, so we got Paris went to pizza and ate some Superman. That makes no sense. So really, you just want to make sure that you get the order that you're passing in data to a function correct. So Superman went to Paris and ate some pizza. Let's just do snails. Okay, he's going to meet up with Jessica. They're both in Paris and now they're both having snails. And get rid of that comma there or we're going to have an error. So remember, we've wrote out the name of the function here. I'm just going to delete these 2 lines to make it easier. Sorry, Jessica, I guess you're not meeting up with Superman. I'd be upset too. So we're passing in Superman as an argument to the function. We have our name parameter defined here. So it's Superman went to Paris. Paris is passed in. When we call or invoke the function here, we're passing in Paris as an argument to the function. And then city is the parameter that's defined. So city is a reference to whatever is passed in this case Paris. So Superman went to Paris and ate some, and we pass in snails here as an argument to this function. The function receives it as an argument, but we call the parameter food. So remember, parameter is just a way of saying a placeholder. How do you want to reference all the data being passed in this position here? Okay, so that's all that is. So now we're going to get Superman went to Paris and ate some snails. Okay, so if I save and refresh, we get Superman went to Paris and ate some snails. Little challenge for you. I want you to send Jessica to Paris as well, because I feel her and Superman, I don't want them, I don't want them having snails by themselves. Let's have snails with a friend. She can order fries. Jessica is her own woman. She doesn't need to eat snails. So now we have Superman went to Paris and ate some snails, and Jessica went to Paris and ate some fries. So what you notice is we really can pass in whatever data we want to the function, because here we passed in Superman, but here we passed in Jessica. Superman and Jessica, well, they both went to Paris. Superman had snails, but Jessica had fries. Key takeaway from this tutorial, you can create a function with 3 parameters defined, and the order in which you pass in the data matters. I hope you've enjoyed the last few tutorials. We've now covered a lot of the basics of functions. You've seen now how to create a function with no parameters, with 1, 2, and finally here 3 parameters. We're going to start doing some more useful real-world examples now with functions. such as how to calculate the area of a circle or a rectangle or triangle, those kind of things. But we do have to cover the return keyword as well, so we'll talk about that in the next tutorial.